Well, people always ask, why don't I tour more with my band in the States? And primarily it's because there need to be an anchor gig where you have the money involved. Now, it's not all about the money, but I just turned 50 years old. I have 4 kids. I have a house. I got a mortgage. I got cars and stuff. And again, not that it's all about the money, but it is a little bit, right? A little bit. Got to be a little bit about the money. And the problem is in so many different places, and the reason why it works well in Europe is because, say you get a gig in Europe, and you might have a gig one night for you're getting a nice little chunk of change. And then the next night you might be playing someplace where it's not very much money, maybe like 500 euro for the trio to play someplace. But the thing is that they will conjure up hotel rooms and a decent meal and PA and all that kind of stuff. In the States, they'll be, oh yeah, you can play our room and get the door, and then we won't provide anything other than the PA, which you'll have to pay for unless we get so-and-so to sponsor the gig. So you actually go in the hole to play at a place in America. Unless, of course, you're, well, how did these bands open up for so-and-so and so? Well, a lot of times these bands, if I may be so bold to put it forward, are getting tour support, or they have some kind of support from management, or the management is in cahoots with the management of the larger act, so that there's all this stuff, but they're not making money. So by the end of the day, they're in debt up to their nostril capacities. So not in every scenario, but that's, happens quite a bit. So in order for me to tour, like for instance, if I do something out here in Colorado, I'm sure I can get an anchor gig where it pays me X amount of dough, but maybe I would want to cook up a clinic with it, or maybe have at least a couple gigs in a row that I have airfare taken care of, backline taken care of, and be able to pay my guys, grown-up money. I remember I was doing a tour when Malford was, we were doing some stuff with Malford, and we booked a thing down in Texas. And it was interesting because the names will be changed to protect the innocent. But there's this guy that approached Malford that wanted to book us and maybe manage, but and I'm always very straightforward with these guys. It was, I really like to represent you. And I go, well, this is very simple. I will give you a trial 2-week window, and you book that, many months in advance. I go, okay, at this, 6 months out or whatever. I said, here's 2 weeks. You book that, and I'll help you in any way, shape, and form that I can. You book that and take care of all the details, and based on that, we'll go forward. And without any exception, it's always been an unmitigated debacle, because people, when they want to represent you, they want all the work to be done. They just want to go, oh yeah, I'll handle all the stuff you've already done for you and take a percentage. I mean, not to generalize, but people. Anyway, so this guy approached us, and it sounded too good to be true. Yeah, I'll book these 2 weeks for you, and it'll be great. And all of a sudden, I start getting the dates, and he's got everything in Excel sheets. Oh yeah, this is booked here. And the caveat is that his band was going to be, that he represented, these young guys were going to be opening up for us every one of these venues. And lo and behold, Malford was going to be sitting in with these guys as well. So ostensibly what he was doing, he was either trying to use whatever notoriety that Malford and I collectively had to try to put his band on the map, which I get, no problem. But then I think ostensibly he wanted to snag Malford to be in this other band. Again, I don't care about anything as long as I get paid. And, well, I shouldn't say that. As long as, whatever Machiavellian schemes are going on under the crust are none of my concern, as long as I show up, play my thing, get compensated accordingly, and let the good times roll. So we ended up coming down, and the gigs were a debacle. The first gig, we were like 3 hours out of Dallas, having driven down from Milwaukee. I got to tell you, it's a long ass way, folks. And all of a sudden I get a call from this guy, who shall remain nameless, going, yeah, there was a storm last night in Dallas, and I'm afraid the gig's called off for today. I said, excuse me? What does a storm last night have to do with our gig tonight? Well, it's an outdoor venue. I was like, yeah, well, it's not raining now, and it hasn't been raining for about 8 hours, so why can't we do it? Well, it was because this guy hadn't taken care of business, and he was a complete, well, let's just put it this way. His detail, I dotting and T crossing were a little bit suspect. So this gig was indeed not on, and luckily they still had the hotels for us that night, because it was a gig at a hotel. And I went in there and I said, excuse me, you're canceling our gig and then you're not going to pay for our hotels? I just drove down from for Milwaukee. And I don't know if you've seen what happens when someone like myself who gets angry like once every 10 years actually loses it, but it is akin to somewhat of a nuclear experience. So luckily that guy, this nebulous character, came out and took care of the hotels and actually paid for a meal for us for that evening. Because, again, who wants to get, involved in an unpleasant situation? So then we went on from there, and the only good gigs that we had were the ones that Malford individually got for himself, or that I got. So this individual that was going to be representing us was a charlatan of unmitigated proportion. And then there were some gigs that were happening in Austin itself, and I remember talking to the guy that booked the club, and by then the pool had already been poisoned by all of these nebulous arrangements made by this other character. So I was in no mood. I was in no mood whatsoever. So I called out on this last guy who we were supposed to do a weekend in Austin at this kind of well-known club. And our deal was a door gig. And I called this guy up and I said, listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm on this tour and it has been one batshit crazy thing after another. This guy who's made arrangements with you has turned out to be a total charlatan. And the guy's like, no problem. We'll get his band off the bill. He's gone. We won't even have him on the bill. I'm like, okay, well, last time we played at your club, we made X amount of dough. There's no reason to assume that that's not going to happen again. I need you to provide hotel rooms for us because I'm not going to drive, at the time we were in Oklahoma, all the way down to Austin. I said, I can't do it. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm not going to be sleeping on someone's couch so that I can hopefully make dough playing at your place for a door deal. I said, just conjure up hotel rooms for us and then we'll pay your door gig. And he wouldn't do it. So I said, guess what? We ain't coming. And I remember at the time, Malford was like, I hope you didn't ruin my relationship with this guy. I was like, I remember I used the expression, some bridges need burning. And that's just kind of the way of playing in the States these days. Not that I'm trying to say, oh, it's so horrible. I found an excellent way to make a living playing my guitar. And that's all I really want to do.